Hello, I'm Raafet Azzouz, founder of the MIT New Colossus Project. I'm Tunisian, born and raised. I studied in France, but then I worked in New York City and in London. So we started the MIT New Colossus Project with a group of brilliant master graduate students here at the Institute for several reasons. First, we wanted to shine a light on the stories of extraordinary immigrant trailblazers here in America. From this conversation, we wanted to learn from their achievements and their journeys, how they overcame challenges and hurdles, how they built community, how they raised hundreds or billions of dollars in order to achieve venture success. We hope through this project to inspire the next generation of brilliant minds coming to America to achieve extraordinary impossible missions. I hope you will enjoy these conversations as much as we do, and it will resonate with you. Good morning, Al.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for inviting me to come hang out.
Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for taking the trip and being here. It's actually a pleasure to have you part of this project.
Well, I said I would only do it on a perfect day in Boston. That would be the requirement.
I mean, that's like a perfect alignment of stars because it doesn't happen that often.
That's beautiful.
So, this is like our 5th episode actually of the New Colossus Project here at MIT. Where we tell the stories of immigrant trailblazers like yourself to inspire the next generation, to teach them about how success can be achieved, and to learn from your insights and your peers who have actually achieved it. So thank you for being here. It's a pleasure.
No, like I said, when you say that, sometimes I'm like, is there somebody over there you're talking to? Okay, but joking aside, just super excited to be a part of it and awesome to have this conversation.
Awesome, thank you. So just to set the scene, so you're the CEO and chairman of StoicLane, a long-term acquisition and growth platform focused on finance, insurance, and real estate. You created this company a few years back. But it's your latest venture. You have created multiple companies during your career. So the first one you created was Innova in 2004. It was a leading consumer lending business that has been sold, is now public. Then Pangea in 2009 focused on real estate, and Avant in 2013, who is a leader in digital consumer credit. So quite a few companies in a space of a career. So congratulations.
I think I realized my mom was right that I did have ADHD or something. Maybe that's a bad joke, but clearly haven't been able to stay in one place for forever. But I'm trying to do that with StoicLane.
Oh, that's good. I mean, overall, the success of your company, you have raised more than $1 billion in equity across all your companies and generated several $1 billion of shareholder value, which is pretty extraordinary. So I would love to start actually our conversation by, not on the business side, but going back to when you came to the United States. So you were born in Uzbekistan, in what used to be the USSR, right? And you came here at the age of 8 with your parents, and you came here as a refugee. You were seeking asylum yep. in the United States. If we go back in time to that period, and obviously it's not an easy period, it was very challenging and difficult, I can only imagine. What was your dream of the US? What did it look like at that age, at 8 years old, coming from USSR? And what was the reality when you arrived here? New culture, new country, new language.
So thank you for that question. And first of all, I was 8 years old, little kid, and so I think your memories at that age are shaped by what you're told and stories. But I've been told this a number of times since, that my parents didn't actually tell me we were going to the U.S. So maybe a little bit different as we talk to our kids and like, which school do you want to go to and what is good for you? I think my parents were afraid mm-hmm. that if they told me, I would tell my friends at school and they would then get in trouble and they wouldn't be able to leave. So they actually, in hindsight, they told us we were going to Ukraine. Because I was born in Uzbekistan, my mm-hmm. dad was born in Uzbekistan. My brother and my mom's whole family is from Ukraine. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting if you kind of take a step back in terms of what's going on today in the world. Yeah. But so they didn't ask my opinion, but as a little kid, I got to tell you, I had a great experience. I think I forget, humans have this ability to forget hardships. Because we came to the US, the only person in our family that spoke some English was my mom. None of us spoke a word of English. And so, they take an 8-year-old kid, they throw him in school, go figure it out. But, within a couple of months, you pick up the language, and most of my friends were just American kids, immigrant, non-immigrant kids. And so I'm not sure I knew what to think, but very quickly, this became sort of my home. So that's how forever I've considered myself to be an American and gotten to live this unbelievable experience. And so I think immigrants kind of are the biggest proponents of the American idea because we see the opportunity that it brings.
Absolutely. It's, that's what this country was built upon. It's actually why we named this project, as a matter of fact, New Colossus, is actually the poem at the base of the Statue of Liberty. So it's all about that immigrant dream, about opportunities and land of opportunities.
Well, we were talking about it earlier. We had this unique opportunity to go travel the world with our kids a few years ago during COVID. And to me, we were in Dubai, and you meet just people working hard and you talk to them, and their number one aspiration, by and large, is to come to America. And I think that's actually the one thing that really stuck with my kids.
From an early age, when you arrived here, from what I know, math and finance were like really the areas that were the most interest of you. You went to University of Illinois as an undergrad and I guess grad. And what drove you? What attracted you to that field and space in particular?
So I studied finance and math. My older brother, who's 5 years older, is an engineer, software engineer. And I think I knew pretty early on that he was just way smarter, way better at that kind of stuff. So I had to focus on what I was better at. But I was a chess kid in the Soviet Union. I was decently good at math. And to me, it made sense. And finance is just an expression, I think, of mathematical concepts. And so I had a great experience at the University of Illinois. I studied finance. At the time, you couldn't actually double major. So I was the only business kid taking math classes.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and the math kids were like, "What are you doing here? Like, are you lost?" But in hindsight, I'll tell you, the math background has been far more critical in what I've done professionally, I think, than anything else.
Okay, funnily, I don't come from the same country, but I come from a math background and I did finance. And that's the only thing that brought me to finance is actually how much math you can apply through finance. And the linkage between the two is so preponderant, and you can really drive your career in finance, like bachelor math.
And so my focus at undergrad was statistics, actually. And that's actually what I talk to my kids about is the understanding of statistics. And most math we do is somewhat rudimentary because we have software, we have tools. But the basic understanding of conditional probability, I think is such an advantage. Just figuring out, okay, what is the likelihood of an event occurring?
Statistics is, you can translate the world into probabilities. At the end, events, the world, everything. And if you have that kind of macro understanding, that's what you're referring to.
Yeah.
If you carry on a bit, a few years after studying in university, you had a short stint in investment banking. We were talking about it, but I feel like you were really born more to be an entrepreneur than an investment banker in a big corporation.
I think you translate that by saying unemployable. That's what my mom told me.
Does she still say that now?
Yeah.
How do you think, and this is more, me being curious, is how do you think the way you grew up, or kind of how you came to the US, or your immigrant journey, shaped you going into building all these ventures, taking all these risks to build these companies?
It's an interesting question. I think, again, back to that point, in hindsight, I think we all sort of create narratives of how it all happened. The reality is, at the time, I'm not sure I would have ever predicted the path that I went down, but I think the immigrant upbringing, if anything, for me, gave me the confidence to think that, hey, you do a startup, you give up this job and you start a company and it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
What's the worst that can happen? It couldn't be worse than being my parents. Actually, not even me, because I was a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
For me, my upbringing was relatively easy, but for my parents my dad was 40 when he came to the US, didn't speak the language. My mom was 33, no money, no family, and they worked it out.
Yeah.
And so I think my perspective was always, hey, this is a risk that's pretty quantifiable. You're 23, you start a company, it doesn't work. I end up in business school with a better story than most of my peers.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel like that huge a risk.
Yeah. And it's also, it goes back to the point of also maybe expectations. I mean, if your expectations are based also on your knowing your truth and reality of your parents and so on and so forth, I mean, it kind of puts things in a different perspective as well.
So I had a mentor who actually just passed away recently, legend, Wall Street legend, ran American Express forever. Mm-hmm. And he once told me this line that I repeated 100 times. Mm-hmm. And he's like, Al, I manage my expectations I manage my disappointment by managing my expectations. Yeah. Right? It's a little bit Charlie Munger. Mm-hmm. Is if you have low expectations, it's much easier to exceed them.
Of course, and it makes complete sense. I mean, and it's a good way to actually keep kind of an even keel in the middle of storms or macro storms. Expectations.
No, we were joking earlier about Stoic. Mm-hmm. StoicLane is the title. We couldn't name it Stoic itself, mm-hmm. but that is a bit of the idea. Mm-hmm. Is try to be balanced, have a longer term perspective where you're not swayed by the emotion of every day.
Yeah. I mean, actually, I'm just going to maybe carry on that point on the mentors. I know it's very important for you, mentors. I mean, this, and I'm sorry for your loss on this friend of yours. And mentorship and mentors are crucial in your development and growth and success. How have you approached it? Because you were still a kid coming to a new country, right? How did you approach to have these mentors who have been advising you? And beyond that now, how do you approach mentoring the next generation yourself?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I got my start at Deutsche Bank, mm-hmm. and I got that job, thankfully, just through the school mm-hmm. interview process. And coming out of Illinois, that was actually, at that time, really hard because mm-hmm. there was a small number of spots, and you just sort of get lucky. Mm-hmm. And then when I quit to do my startup, interesting enough, the co-founder that I worked with, who's still a great friend of mine, and sort of godfather to my kids kind of thing, 17 years older, he was a trader, mm-hmm. and I interned for him when I was a sophomore in college. Mm-hmm. And so I just naturally had that kind of relationship. I met him actually because my mom was his doctor. So random relationships. Yeah. And he was this kind of like very outgoing, great guy that told her, it's like, oh, I see pictures of your kids on the wall, have them call me. And I called him. And he actually jokes to this day that I was the only one that ever called him. He would say that to everybody. And so I think what I've learned is, one, call, mm-hmm. because you just never know. And we've had this unbelievable relationship where when I quit to do my startup, he was the chairman, he was the mentor, and I was the one doing all the work. And he gave me this line when I quit Deutsche Bank, when I thought I was getting paid really well, mm-hmm. Obviously working 100 hours a week, so when you do the math by number of hours, not mm-hmm. so well. It's like, I want to put you in a position to benefit from your own hard work. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've tried to do to people I work with over the years. So I've had a number of my co-founders across these companies that were former interns of mine. Mm-hmm. My co-founders at Avant, mm-hmm. both co-founders were former interns of my first company, Innova. Mm-hmm. My co-founder, business partner, Jake, at StoicLane, I pulled out of investment banking when he was there for a year, mm-hmm. when he came to work at Avant. So I love that. Mm-hmm. Actually, to me, that's the most rewarding aspect of building companies, is watching sort of the younger generation. Now that I'm, I still feel young, but I guess now I'm the old guy in a lot of rooms, is watching the next generation of people grow and excel and do things that they maybe wouldn't have been able to do for a long time.
Yeah, that's I mean, it's very good that you actually can see the value that it brought to you. I mean, which is definitely has been pivotal in your growth. But beyond that, I think what's important is the fact that you're giving back to the next generation right now, and you're already seeing it as, as part of you now, and I think that's great.
Well, I'll tell you, in a way, I actually think I'm getting the better part of that bargain, because they're producing all this great work, and I joke about it, but it's sort of true. I get to take credit for a lot of it, and we try to share the credit. We try to expand. But the reality is, skills atrophy, and the things that I used to be able to do myself 10, 15, 20 years ago, I can't do anymore.
Yeah.
But I hopefully, through the benefit of experience, have learned new skills. But this younger generation is incredible. They can do things. They have the flexibility, the work ethic, and I actually think it's a beautiful partnership.
I agree 100%. And I think it's good to be able to foresee that, and the complementarity as well at this stage of your life versus when you started, right? Let me maybe move on to more on your track record on the access to capital, and because you have raised more than $1 billion across all your companies over the lifespan, right? And your lead investors were you had very famed lead investors, being Tiger, being Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and General Atlantic. And it is a major issue for a lot of first generation coming to the US, building their companies, to access capital. How did you go about it, one company after another company after another company?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I would say, for one, the world has changed in terms of capital availability. So my first company, we started Innova in 2004. We raised $3 million of equity capital, and that's it. And, by today's standards, if you're building a startup, that's a pre-seed venture round or something. We just happened to do really, really, really well, and did great for our shareholders.
Yeah.
And actually, I never raised venture capital outside of Avant. That's the only place that we raised venture capital, from the likes of Tiger, General Atlantic, et cetera. And it's a great relationship. Most of the capital that I've raised otherwise has been from high net worth individuals, family offices. And so we started this real estate business. And talk about a humbling experience trying to raise money to buy real estate in 2009, having no real estate experience.
Challenging.
Yeah, I think I probably had 500 in-person meetings, and most of those people told me, good job, kid, but I'm not interested.
Yeah. And
so the people that invested, though, we've thankfully done very well for them. But to me, it's all about reputation. Is the first time around, it might be hard. It always is hard. My experience is fundraising is always challenging, no matter what, no matter the cycle, no matter the environment. But if you carry yourself well and you try to do what you said you're going to do, and when things get tough, you try to be consistent, I think those relationships magnify over time.
Yeah. This is reputation is everything.
I think so.
And building trust and proving that you have a track record of delivering, and especially in bad times.
Yeah.
Especially in those years where actually there have market drawdowns, you have challenging times for the company. Many things can happen. I think those moments are the ones that prove your worth, and your worth as a business leader as well.
I actually think that is 100% what people remember is, what did you do when it was really tough? Did you say, oh, well, I need a bigger share because otherwise I'm going to leave? Or did you say, well, I'm going to cut my salary, I'm going to work more, I'm going to be the one that is the first to take the pain, so I could protect my shareholders?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to move a bit subjects here, and this is more you as a business leader and recruiting people, right? You have recruited and employed hundreds of employees in your different companies over time. And this is I know it's a point where you are pretty vocal about, and you think it's very important as a business leader, is the immigration programs being put in place, being the H-1B, visas, so on and so forth. How important is it for a company in America in this day and age provide, to build these programs and make them thrive?
Yeah, it's a great question. Actually, my own experience is being an immigrant, came here as a kid. If I look back across my various companies, I would say half or more of my co-founders have been immigrants. Probably 75% are first gen or more or immigrants. Mm-hmm. And I think there are statistics on this. I haven't looked super recently, but something like half of unicorn companies, in the last 5-10 years in the U.S. I'm sure that is true over a longer time horizon. Yeah. Have at least one immigrant founder. Mm-hmm. So to me, obviously there are different types of immigration. Mm-hmm. My own experience has been you are trying to hire the best and the brightest because that is ultimately what drives huge outcomes. And you define outcomes not only as generating wealth for shareholders, but as creating jobs, creating great products, building sustainable companies over a long time horizon. You need the unique, you need the externalities, the best and the brightest people that you could possibly find. Mm-hmm. Those people all want to come here. They want to study here in the US. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of times we send them back home. And so to me, it's pretty simple. Let's take the best and the brightest. Let's give them, a green card. Mm-hmm. Let's staple it to their diploma and give them an opportunity to stay. Mm-hmm. And they're going to create massive outcomes. And our experience is we go through the H-1B programs, and there are obviously lots of different visa optionalities at O1 and L1, and it's always hard.
It's hard.
You're always trying to make sure that you can get through a quota, and you have people who are amazing, talented people with master's degrees and PhDs who just want to work hard. And so, yeah, I'm a huge proponent of expanding those programs and making them easier to access.
Yeah, it is definitely challenging for a lot of I've experienced this recruiting, but I see it now here, even at MIT, coming from among the most prestigious programs, getting, the right continuation of the visa after graduation. And yeah, as you say, you want to recruit the best and brightest. Yeah. And especially when they come with the right attitude and mindset of hard work and resilience and grit. I mean, you need to be able to create the channel to be able to do that as a company as well.
Yeah, I think tech companies, especially larger tech companies, understand the processes and understand how to deal with H-1B. It doesn't scare them as much. But smaller companies, and especially non-technical companies, they're just not willing to go through the energy to try to figure out, okay, well, how do I get through the H-1B process and quotas, and will the visa expire? And I think that's what limits the opportunity set. Mm-hmm. Actually, we hired a kid the other day who I spoke with, and he was coming out of a school, just finished his master's degree, was looking for a place to get started, and he was looking for someone to sponsor him. I remember talking to him, I was like, okay, well, we need you in Miami. When can you be in Miami? He's like, tomorrow. I'm like,
love it.
My type of kid.
Exactly, love it.
It's not, oh, what can you do for me? It's, I want to work hard.
Exactly.
And so he's working for us now. It's only been a few weeks, but he's doing great.
Yeah. It all starts by the attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, look, I think the UK is actually changing their rules, where actually they are offering to anyone who has like a certain level of education degree, immigration status to come work in the United Kingdom. This is a recent thing, post Brexit, obviously.
Yeah. Sure.
There's definitely motivation there, but I think it's a smart move from the British government.
No, Canada has done that as well.
100%.
Yeah, not that I agree with everything Canada's done, but I think that's been incredible. Yeah.
Actually, this is a question that I wanted to ask you earlier, but I'm going to ask it now. And as we are drawing to an end to this conversation, you're a family man. You have 3 kids, right? And I know you from the conversations we had, you value your relationship with them. How you grew up and your attitude to work and your attitude in business has been driven by your immigrant journey and the fact that you came here very young, like at the age of your middle son, right?
Yeah.
How do you transmit those values to them today, or how do you try to transmit those values to them?
Yeah, I think honestly, try probably more so than anything. And my wife is also an immigrant, by the way. So also an immigrant, also a founder in FinTech, and is incredibly smart. actually the smart one in our family by far. And we talk about this a lot. As she came at 13, I came at 8. Our kids are never going to have that experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think life is about lived experience. You know, my own experience is I could read something in a book, I can hear it from my parents. Until I personally see it, I'm going to discount it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the same is true for our kids. Is we can tell them, you need to work hard and you need to have a chip on your shoulder and you need to, appreciate everything and value it. The reality is they are growing up in a world far different than mine and yours. And by the way, we have technology today, which is a totally separate conversation my wife and I talk about, which I think presents huge challenges to just basic focus and execution.
Mm-hmm.
For better or for worse, I'll tell you, our view on kids is very similar to how I think about really employees and culture. This is what my wife and I try to do. We try to have really high expectations, but we try to create a very safe environment. And then ultimately, I actually think sports is a unique allegory for life. And so all 3 of our kids compete in sports. They've competed in a number of different sports since they were very little. Because I think sports creates that competitive edge, where it's like how do you learn to work hard?
Yeah.
Right. I can tell you, or you can go compete in front of a whole bunch of people and deal with the stress of that. And sometimes you win, and sometimes you lose. And for better or for worse, they're doing well, and they're doing well in school and doing well in sports, and they're nice kids, which I hope that continues to be the case.
Awesome. Well done. I mean, it's a difficult. This question I was not expecting a clear answer, but I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense. And as you said, it's more trying to make them live the experience, more than having kind of a playbook.
Yeah. And honestly, I think limiting the technology as much as possible.
Yeah.
I just think that opens you up to so much more, because we didn't grow up like that.
So much more living.
Yeah.
Last question, and I wish we could actually carry on for even more time. And this is the last one. And if you were to do it all over again, right? If you were now to come at age of 8, the age of your middle son, now to the US from, let's say, Uzbekistan, what advice would you give yourself?
It's a great question. In hindsight, I think my personal philosophy is try not to have too many regrets. Try to appreciate the journey and the path that you're on. And I'm very lucky in that, I have a wife I love. I have 3 kids that are doing great. My parents are with us. We saw them yesterday. We had a great Mother's Day. So my brother was with us, and we're very close as a family. So I have very few regrets about any of that kind of stuff. I would say just try to continue to remember some of the things that get you excited to get up every day and get up in the morning and continue to build, and good things will happen over time. Preserve the reputation as much as possible.
Absolutely. Awesome. Look, Al, this was a real pleasure. I'm very happy we had this conversation. I want to thank you for being here and for taking the time and the trip. We really appreciate it as a group and myself. So thank you.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.